Joining us now is local author and former WGN crime reporter Doug Cummings, who has a new book out. Welcome to the Go Show, Doug.
Thank you, Pat.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll work in what you got in the book here.
A little plug for the book, yeah. For 17 years here in Chicago, I was working in radio. I worked first at WMAQ Radio, which is sadly not forgotten, but definitely gone. WGN Radio was my latest radio home. I left 4 years ago after my first book came out to write full-time.
And coincidentally, your first book.
Yes, oddly enough, you had a copy of that. Yes,
and
Shameless is always good. I like Shameless. Deader by the Lake was my first book. It came out in '04, and it started the saga of Reno McCarthy, who is a TV reporter in Chicago. In Deader by the Lake, he was out of a job and looking to get his job back, which a lot of people in the broadcasting business will find very familiar. In Every Secret Crime, he has his job back, and he's looking into what it turns into be a series of murders in the suburbs. Most of the crime that I covered in Chicago was in the suburbs, and so I'm somewhat familiar with that. I have a police background from a number of years ago when I was in college and right afterward, so I've kind of blended that with my reporting experiences. Every Secret Crime is a murder mystery. It's kind of a murder mystery over a couple of generations. One of the things that I've done with the book, the reporters, when they get to a crime scene, oftentimes run into problems with the police. It may be a little known fact. I don't know how much the public knows about that, but reporters are often shown to be stupid and gang-oriented and ganging up on poor innocents that don't deserve it. Well, and that happens sometimes, but I'm trying to show the other side of it, which is a persistent guy who is aggressive and trying to get a story and finding that there is a cover-up in front of him, and he's trying to uncover the cover-up.
Describe Reno for us.
Reno and I have some similarities. We both like chocolate chip cookies. Is going to become very apparent in Every Secret Crime. He's somewhat of a glutton. I think there are 3 separate instances where he's going after the cookies. But Reno is a persistent reporter. He's an aggressive reporter. In Every Secret Crime, he's fighting some internal demons as well as working on the story that he's investigating. He turns it up himself. A friend of his is listening to a police scanner, finds out some information, turns it over to Reno. Reno, because of his experience, sees what's going on and gets an idea and makes some phone calls. And it's very similar to what I used to do.
Well, every crime reporter has the scanner in the car.
Absolutely. Some of us have more than one. Some of us have more than 5.
And we have them at home.
And have them at home, yeah. But that was my stereo for many years, was the police scanner. But Reno is the kind of guy that he doesn't like liars, and he doesn't like people who play games. And what he's finding in Every Secret Crime, what he found in Deader by the Lake, is a bunch of politicians playing games. He doesn't like that. And he sees, as any good reporter does, that when somebody is not talking and a politician or a policeman refuses to talk, there's usually something there. And there's something more to get out of them. So he is willing to take the risk, go around the corners, sneak into back alleys, and figure out what's going on.
In your new book, how much familiarity will people have with the places, the occurrences? Are there a lot of situations or locations that you've used that are real?
There are the feeling of the suburbs is very strongly evoked. Because I really didn't want to get sued because of some of the things that I say about the politicians in the book. I've created a fictional county, Wahiga County, and a fictional town, Falcon Ridge, and some fictional circumstances. There are no city-county joint municipalities in Illinois. I'm familiar with them in many other states, but where the county is actually the government, governmental entity, and the towns really take a second seat to that. This is a county police department, and it's basically being run by a guy who used to be the county board president. And there are some political shenanigans that I think people familiar with suburban Chicago will recognize. I think that the feeling of the suburbs is very strong. I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the way things can hide in the suburbs, sometimes much more easily than in the city. You think about the city being crime-ridden, perhaps, and to a certain extent there is a lot of crime in Chicago, and a lot of it gets hidden by the very nature of the fact it's a big city. You would think that in the suburbs, whatever happens, whatever news happens, would be very obvious because they're smaller areas. But I think oftentimes, particularly the wealthier suburbs, like to keep that kind of thing under wraps. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that just annoys the heck out of Reno. He wants to get to the truth, and he doesn't like people playing games with him.
Mm-hmm. Where does Doug stop and Reno begin?
Well, actually, Doug stops where Reno gets into fights and has good quips and is good looking, and he's on TV, and I think that Reno is I think that Reno is a much darker person than I am. I tend to be very upbeat. He's got a lot of stuff on his mind, mm-hmm. And I think he's an interesting character from that perspective. In this book, he's going through some personal issues. Mm-hmm. He's got a close friend who's having a problem, and so that's distracting him a little bit. But I think that whenever you write a character, there's certainly a lot of yourself in it, and I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy the fantasy. You know, everybody wants to be a Walter Mitty kind of a character, and I can't do it in real life. I can't leap tall buildings in a single bound, but Reno does a pretty good job of trying.